And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. It's a Friday. We're winging it. A little Cinco de Mayo. I had forgot about Cinco de Mayo. Did I just remind you that it's Cinco de Mayo?
No. I was talking to John about it earlier.
Oh, so you already knew.
Most things around here that you don't know, I already know.
Yeah. All I wanna do is feel awesome. All I wanna do is feel awesome. All I wanna do is feel awesome.
Did you was that a thing when you did you go out for Cinco de Mayo? You never did anything for Cinco de Mayo?
No. It's a hijacked holiday. It's not ours. It's just an excuse.
Well, yes, but it's a great. Some of my best memories are Cinco de Mayo because the weather's turning.
Yeah, the
classes are ending. It's like this weird span of time in my life. Through my 20s, Cinco de Mayo was a real thing. Cinco de Mayo mattered in a way.
I can see for a college kid.
Yeah.
Cinco de Mayo is very much the end of. For a baseball person, so you're a basketball person, so you're in season. For a baseball person, you're in the middle of the season, and there's
makes it harder.
There's bigger fish to fry. But yeah, I can see. And now, today, because it's First Friday.
Yeah.
Here in Williamsport. B, because it's the first day in 3 months and it's not going to rain, at least allegedly. We'll see if that holds true.
Right.
So yeah, the fact that it's there's a show. We're not being paid to promote this, so we shouldn't promote this, but. The Community Arts Center is doing the One Night in Memphis. Isn't that the night?
That's the Elvis,
Jerry Lee Lewis,
Cash,
Johnny Cash, and Sam Perkins.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Not Sam Perkins.
Sam Perkins was he was a lefty for the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Isn't his name Perkins?
Maybe.
Anyway,
you were there. I wasn't.
It would be. I was not in Memphis in the 50s. It was. It sounds like a great show, and I don't know. They still have a couple tickets available. I don't know how many tickets they have, but if it's 7:30 or whatever, and I don't have a whole lot going on, there is a very decent show. I cannot believe it's not a good show.
You're gonna sneak in?
Well, I would buy a ticket, and then I would sneak up to the box,
and then you would go. Speaking of, because this is going to be a wild show, we're going to go all over the place. So I was looking up tickets. Have you seen the Morgan Wallen stuff?
Yeah.
So Morgan, I'm assuming Morgan Wallen is a country artist.
98 Braves.
98 Braves, correct.
Bad dude.
He has had his troubles. So two side notes. First side note,
Let me rephrase that. When I say bad dude, Apollo Creed was a bad dude. I hear he's a jerk. That's what I'm trying to say.
So, first things first, ticket prices. I was looking it up because he is in Hershey, Pennsylvania in a week or two. And I looked it up. Standing room only, $300 plus.
What?
In the pit right now, it's $5,000 to be down in the pit in Hershey for Morgan Wallen. So then I looked up some of his other shows. He is in Tampa this weekend.
Okay. A
ticket to be down in the front section for Morgan Wallen in Tampa right now is going for over $10,000.
What?
It is insane, the ticket prices to see Morgan Wallen right now. The other part of this is interesting. It's so funny, looking back now, the stuff happens to people and you kind of hear it in there. People talk about Robin Williams, and if you listen to some of his soliloquies or some of his stand-up, it was very obvious that he was dealing with depression. But in the moment, you don't notice it, right? You don't actually realize it's happening. If you go through and you listen to a lot of Morgan Wallen's songs, there's a ton of stuff about dealing with the I don't want to call them atrocities, but dealing with the issues of being a redneck and just substance abuse and all of these things. And now you hear some of these stories. He canceled the show about a week ago, 5 minutes before the show was supposed to start. There's video of him that has surfaced that he's basically belligerently drunk before the show, can't go out and perform. He had the issue where he dropped a racial slur. This was a couple years ago. I just wonder, his music is, if you like country music, Morgan Wallen's great. I just wonder if 5-10 years from now, we're going to listen to some of this stuff and be it was all right there. In the lyrics and in the titles of the song, we're in a weird moment with Morgan Wallen right now because he is on top of the world. But now, like, you hear some of the stories and you listen to some of the lyrics, and it's like, are we sure this person is okay?
But he could be struggling.
It is. I'm just saying we never realize it until after. Like, and I'm just saying with Morgan Wallen, we may be in a weird place with him where, like, we may be seeing it before it happens. It's weird.
I mean, we've talked about this. I think we've talked about it on the air. We've talked about it off the air. You see these rock stars, especially rock stars, and he is a rock star, even though he's a country star.
Mhm.
That many of us are kept in check because of the constraints of daily life. Like we have limited budgets.
Sure.
We have to get up and go to work tomorrow, so we have to go to bed at night, and even on weekends, like we don't want to get too out of whack because we got to go back to work, and we don't want to spend too much money because we don't have that much money, and blah blah blah. Imagine some of these people that have unlimited amount of money, an unlimited amount of time, no real social constraint,
Right.
other than this is when I have to, because like, oh, he has rehearsal. Does he have to go to rehearsal? Like he only has to go to rehearsal when he wants to go to, and so because great amounts of success take away a lot of these checks and balances that the rest of natural life gives us.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that the checks and balance that they lose is the people telling them, like, you're an idiot, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And we have that because our friends are all on the same level as us, essentially. And, when your friend looks at you and says, like, that's stupid. But who is on the level of these people?
Yeah.
And it's very rare. So it's interesting. Another one I wanted to point out is that's tomorrow. Am I missing today? If you're my generation, you won't care about this at all. But this weekend at Meriwether Post, which is right outside Baltimore, they call it the M3 Rock Festival.
Okay.
So to you, these mean nothing. To people my age, Styx, Kicks, Extreme, Warrant, Great White, Winger, Slaughter, Stephen Adler, Lita Ford, Quiet Riot, Firehouse, Brittany Fox, LA Guns, Vixen, Child's Play, and Mike Tramp, who is the lead singer of White Wine.
I knew over half of those, if that makes you feel any better. I swear to God, I did.
So this is like the 80s like these bands that are now playing clubs for 500 people.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-day festival. And I don't even know. Tickets are between $50 and $100. And I've always wanted to go to this, but it's always during baseball season. I just can't get there.
When you go to a show, what is your I like to stand, so we almost never buy seats. We almost always get the standing room, like in the field or like at Hershey, we get the back of the floor, because it's just like I'm never gonna sit. Like I'm not doing it. Like, are you like when you go to a concert? Like, are you standing? Are you dancing? Are you hollering? Are you singing? Like, what is your?
There's got. I'm cool. I guess it's sooner or later. I don't. I think I always have a seat.
I'm always blown away at people who can go to a concert and sit. And obviously, don't get me wrong, I understand that some people need to sit. Like, I'm not that oblivious, but I'm just saying, like, when I see like a 25-year-old that's like having a good time and enjoying it, and they're just kind of sitting there going like this, I'm like, how are you sitting? Like, this is like, I don't understand.
I just saw Tesla over at the Community Arts Center.
Okay.
And I stood for most of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I sat for a little. Like,
Okay.
I want the option. When you go to places, if you've ever been to the old, like when Fiddlesticks was here, over at Penn's Peak, you're gonna stand.
Yeah.
But when I went to see Hershey, or when I went to Hershey to see Molly Crew and Def Leppard and Poison and Joan Jett, the show was all dead.
Yeah.
So of course we wanted to see, because in between bands you sat. Now you got up and walked around, but during a 7-hour show,
Right.
you need to sit.
But see, I'm the person that, like, I don't feel bad for the people behind me if I'm standing. Like, I am at a concert. Like, I am at a concert. Like, I am not sitting because you have decided to sit. And and vice versa. I don't get mad at somebody standing in front of me.
No, I get it.
Like,
yeah, the vast majority. They play some song off the new album that you don't know, and you're like, all right, this is a good time to rest.
That's
young,
fine.
And you don't have to pace yourself. But when you're old, you're kind of like, all right, I'm going to take this song off.
This just came to me speak because I was talking with some friends last night about the Celtics Sixers Did you hear the story about a fan who tried to stand at the Celtics game? Have you heard about this at all? So NBA playoffs are going on, Sixers, Celtics. A fan, the Celtics are starting to lose their lead. There's like 6 minutes to go in this first critical playoff game of the series.
Is this game one?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Celtics fan like stands up and he's like trying to rally
And it's in
the
Boston.
Celtic. It's in Boston. So he stands up and he's like trying to like rally the entire arena, like the players, the fans.
Right.
He's trying to galvanize them, right? And Usher comes up and tells him he needs to sit down. This was on the Brian Windhorst podcast. Apparently the fan turned to the usher and looked at him like, it is a playoff game. Like, I'm not sitting down. And apparently they brought somebody else down and told him, like, you need to sit down. And I was thinking to myself, like, that is absurd. 6 minutes to go in a playoff game. And you're being told that you need to sit down because the people behind you can't see.
That is absurd.
It's a bad look for the Celtics.
It is a very bad look.
And they're great fans.
I would have looked at the usher and said, I'm getting loose because if we go play better, I'm going in. Because right now we have this lead and we're coughing it up.
And you need to get loose for it.
I'm getting stretched right now.
If I were the Celtics and I found out about that, like if I was a coach or a player, I would make sure that guy was back the next game, and I would say, do not sit down.
I agree.
Like just for the whole game, galvanize the crowd. Now they ended up winning by like 30 the next game, and they didn't really need it. But isn't that I've heard of like at concerts and like different things, people being asked to sit down. At a playoff game with 6 minutes to go, being asked to sit down when you're trying to like rally the fans and
even baseball playoff games, which baseball is a very subdued, and a lot of people have been to Major League Baseball games time, but not as many people have been to playoff games because they're so much more expensive and it's in October. But there will be late in the game in tight games, you'll stand for a whole inning.
I believe that.
It's not. It has the playoff atmosphere of every other sport.
Yeah.
And in a playoff game on a Tuesday night in January against Minnesota, I can see it.
We were in. I think I told you I got to see Sixers Celtics a couple of months ago. So before the playoffs, before the end of the season, we were standing the entire fourth quarter, and it was a regular season game in Philadelphia.
Sixers Cell. I mean, that always has a little cachet to it.
I kind of want the Knicks to keep going because then regardless of who wins, Boston, Philly, that New York being there waiting for them.
I think Miami's hot, though.
I know, yes, but I think New York's got them. I think I think they're more solid.
How, what's his name for Miami?
Jimmy Butler.
How bad is he?
It's pretty bad.
What's wrong? Ankle? Did he do it in game one?
Yes. Well,
didn't he score like 75 points a game?
Yeah, but it appeared like in the fourth quarter they were like decoying him, like he was just standing in the corner, and they weren't.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
he is. You know what one of Jimmy Butler's problem is? His name is just too normal.
Is Jimmy Butler? Well, he has one of the like fastest growing coffee brands in the world.
I did not know that.
It's called Big Face Coffee.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's a really interesting play, but it's all his. Like it's his brand, his marketing, like everything.
And I know when you look back, you'll say like there could not be almost a more normal name than Michael Jordan, but he made it. But when you get the Kobe's and the Shaquille's there's
Jimmy's a good one though, don't you? No.
Yeah, but it's just so common.
It's just so common.
And I don't know why Steph Curry's different, and Kevin Durant's different, but Jimmy Butler's just kind of like he's just Jimmy Butler. He's really, really good.
He is. Two quick things about Jimmy Butler. Have you seen like the conspiracies? He looks just like Michael Jordan. Like people are convinced that like there is some sort of like illegitimacy. Like, that one's really funny. And then have you ever heard the Jimmy Butler story? Very Michael Orrish. He was kicked out of his household when he was a kid by his mom. I'm pretty sure he wasn't a teenager yet when his mom kicked him out of the house. I don't remember the exact age, but he was that young. Basically started floating. This was in Tomball, Texas, I believe it was. Okay. Started floating between houses, stay at a friend's house for like a month until he had overstayed his welcome. They'll go to the next friend's house. Finally, he was playing like travel basketball. He asked if he could stay at a friend's house. The mom asked him, where does he typically stay? He said, wherever I can. And then after a couple of months, the mom was kind of like, you can stay here if you want to. And they basically like self-adopted him. And then he had no offers, went to JUCO in Texas, eventually ended up at Marquette. It's not a simple, like Jimmy Butler was not this stud athlete who kind of had everything going for him.
That's
I mean,
very Rodman-ish.
yes.
You've seen his story. So the part of Rodman's story is all of a sudden he grew a foot.
Yeah.
And he went from being 5'9" to 6'9", and then all of a sudden they're like, wow, now he's a force.
Yeah.
No, those are, you hear those stories like this and you wonder how many kids slip through because they didn't get a break.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Just a couple of small things on here while we're rolling. You had brought this up, the World Health Organization.
COVID, it's gone.
Apparently COVID is done. We're done with
told me that this morning.
The crisis is over.
It's over. And I wanted to be the first one to tell you, because I know yesterday you woke up like petrified of COVID still.
Yeah.
And now you don't have to be anymore because the World Health Organization says it's no longer I don't remember what the word was.
Yeah.
It's not I don't say viable threat. I don't know. It's not as dangerous as it was.
Yeah. In my short lifetime, I don't know if something's ever been more serious and at the same time more of a joke than like COVID. Because it was something that I very much like. I think COVID was real. I acted accordingly. I did what I thought was best for me. And at the same time, I mean, everything that surrounded it, it was just a parade. Like it just, I don't know.
Well,
it was really bizarre.
I think what happened too was the first wave of it, like the COVID-19 was obviously dangerous. But then when you got to the further variants and people are like, well, it's still dangerous. Yes, the flu is dangerous.
Right.
And it just didn't have.
Can you believe, even now though, and you and I had a lot of conversations going back about protecting the health services and just all the different things behind it. I still now, 2 years kind of removed, like a full 2 years removed from it, I'm still blown away that we shut down what we did. Like in hindsight now, looking back, I'm like, it was a lot. It was a lot.
For us here, yes,
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't really, because we're so rural.
Mm-hmm.
But when you would have to ask some people from the city where they had patients laying in hallways because they didn't have a room for them and stuff. So that is, and I've always believed it was just a chance to protect the healthcare workers in the healthcare industry, because if that was overrun and healthcare workers were dying off and quitting, then it would have been chaos.
See, it's just, and that's why I think there's a lot of fascinating conversations to have around it. To me, that says more about the healthcare system than it said about the power of COVID, right? To me, it showed every hospital didn't have enough ventilators, right? We didn't necessarily know how to handle that influx. We didn't have the capacity. So for me, that said way more of should we take a step back and look at the healthcare system than should we take a look at COVID? But that's just, again, that's just an opinion.
But having all the hospitals with that many ventilators is almost like when they have a snowstorm in Atlanta and they can't plow the streets because they don't have enough snowplows. Yeah. Well, why would you need snowplows in Atlanta? Why would every hospital need 1,000 ventilators? Well,
the difference, I guess the difference would be a hospital that is in Atlanta, you're not expecting snow. At least in a hospital, you are.
Are you expecting that many?
But a hospital is literally a hospital is a place of emergency. I understand what you're saying. It's not a bad analogy. I'm just saying though, I think it merits
there has to be
taking a step at it.
Because say at Williamsport Hospital, they deliver, 5 babies a day. I don't know what the number is.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden one day they deliver 47 babies. And they're like, you don't have enough room. You don't have enough room in the maternity. They're like, well, why would we ever have, these are our historical numbers.
Sure.
And then this one day, why would we be prepared for that? So that's
I guess
I don't know how to end that sentence, but you get my point.
I do get your point. I think the difference then would be the life and death aspect of it, right? Because to not plow the snow in Atlanta, people stay home for a day. To not have a little more oomph to the healthcare system. All of a sudden you're looking around and this is what I'm saying. If it means the world doesn't have to stop, maybe we need to oomph up some of this stuff is what I'm saying. Because the cost of not lifting up the healthcare system, to a level where, yeah, is some of it probably unnecessary for chunks of time? Absolutely. But the cost of not doing that is when it does happen, you now have to completely decide, I guess we're shutting all this down. And that's, I mean, it is costly.
Well, in looking back, and it would be interesting. I keep thinking of the movie War Games. You ever see War Games?
Yeah.
Where the computer could do simulations and play out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's too bad we'll never see a simulation of how, if we did it differently and what it would have looked
Right.
like. You just wonder how many decisions made by the leaders were made because they thought it was the best guess, because they were all just guessing, they're taking educated guesses, or which ones they thought were best for their political career because elections were coming up, or
Sure.
elections had just ended, depending on whether you were Trump or Biden, where you fell on the calendar. So those are, as time as we go back and say, this is what was done, and why do you think it was done this way?
Yeah.
And was it done because they really thought this was the best case scenario,
Yeah.
or because it made them look good for their political future?
Do you regret any part of kind of how you handled it? Like, you look back and say, I was too safe, or I wasn't safe enough, or I would have done this, I would have done that. Like, is there any part of you that reflects on that, or
No,
not really?
I'll tell you, this is a weird scenario for me because I know. And when you talk to people who live in urban centers, where, as I explain to my kids, in our house, in where people live in, whether you're in a single apartment or house, there's one family coming in and out of the door. When you live in these high rises, where there's hundreds of families coming in and out of the same front door and riding the same elevator, there's a different level of danger.
Sure.
So we did not feel that danger that other people were feeling. But COVID for me was a wonderful time because, number one, my oldest daughter was a senior, spring of her senior year.
Yeah.
And we just ended up stealing more family time because the kids would have been in plays and in musicals and in sports, and we just got stuck at home. And so I got a whole lot more, lots of people got a whole lot more family time. And for me, it just happened right before she went to college. And I really feel like I was stealing time. The other aspect was, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Well, it just goes along with what you're saying. If you were financially and healthily secure, it was not an awful time inside of your domain. That's all I wanted to add.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you had those two things good, if you were healthy and secure financially, it was not a bad period of time in your life. Sorry.
And I also, it's when I wrote my novel, because I just written a screenplay and I really liked it, and I knew, and like when you have when you write a screenplay, which everyone does, because that's how people spend their free time. You always get done and you think it's the greatest thing ever, and you have this belief that someone's going to buy it.
Yeah.
Well, then all of a sudden the world got shut down, and I was like, now that hope was even dashed.
Yeah. And
for who knew how long. So my thought was, well, I have nothing else to do, so why don't I turn it into a novel and I'll self-publish it? And because there was no baseball to watch, and at the spring there were no NBA playoffs, there were no NHL playoffs. I didn't have my kids' games to go to. I didn't have my kids' track meets to go to. I had nothing. So every night I was like, well, there's nothing. I can either watch a movie again, and you know what? Between 5 o'clock and midnight, I can watch a movie and I can write. Yeah. So it was, from that aspect, from just the hobby side, it was the most productive time I've ever been because I had nothing else to do. Yeah. So
that makes sense. Yeah. Just curious. Anything else that you wanted to add? Anything else you wanted to bring up today? Catan. Have you ever played Catan?
You told me that.
It's probably the greatest board game ever.
You've basically told me I'm too old and too dumb to play Catan.
To play Catan? I don't think I've said either of those things, despite the fact that they may be true. But I don't think that's ever actually come out of my mouth. 5 minutes. What? Do you have anything else for us? Did you have something else you wanted to bring up, mention? It's okay if you don't.
The weather's been brutal, and it looks like we're going to get a break now.
Yeah.
First Friday is tonight, and it should be really busy, and it should be fun. And it just spring is always like this, and it's tough for the spring sports athletes, softball, track, tennis, baseball, because of the wettest time of the year, and this has just been a brutal stretch. So for all the baseball teams and softball teams that got games backed up, and
I've
It's been rough.
said it before from a weather standpoint, and I understand there's 1,000 reasons not to do it. Just for the weather, I think fall and spring sports should switch because I don't know if football would have missed a beat, and it really kills softball and baseball.
You're right. Football and soccer could have played through it,
Yes,
but it would have sucked.
it would have, but you wouldn't have stacked up. Like you wouldn't have gotten behind the 8 ball.
No,
And I understand there's a lot, like you would never actually be able to logistically
No,
pull it
never
off, but from just in a Pennsylvania, state of PA weather area, like it makes a ton of sense to switch those two.
but on the flip side, just being an intelligent person of the world, if we had a really dry spring, we'd be concerned. Environmentally, we would be very concerned.
Oh, absolutely.
Like every time it rains, you're like, yeah, we're supposed to play. We're rained out. It's too cold. But, rain is never really a bad thing unless you get a flood.
It feels worse too because we had a couple of those days in the 80s. And
Oh, yeah.
so we did like this 2-week weird thing where we'd like touch the 80s and then we just went 50s and rain and just so kind of set us up for failure.
I will say this too, though. It helped us allergy sufferers. I have not been suffering at all. I mean, there's
It helped
nothing
you
to
out.
suffering. It's pollen does not survive 50 degrees and rain. So you wonder how much industries like golf courses have been set back because they have not made a dime in 2 weeks. How many people like out and about? The restaurants that have the outdoor and the sidewalk capabilities have certainly not done well. But now that May is here and the weather has turned, because it was April. What really screwed things up is we had a stretch where April was really nicer than it was supposed to be,
Yeah.
and then it got worse than it was supposed to be. So,
Yeah.
so we'll see how May
I
goes.
agree.
But I would suspect this weekend everyone is going to be out and about.
Yeah.
There's a tractor show out at, I think it's out at Sportsman's,
Okay.
out Route 87 tomorrow. I think everybody's going somewhere this weekend just because there's been nothing to do for 11 days.
That's good. I love it when you talk about the weather.
I believe it.
I did.
Wait till you're old and you talk about
And you talk about the
I talked
weather?
about 80s hair bands first. Like I'm trying to cover the spectrum.
The weather is so lucrative that Fox News was like, we got to start covering the weather. That's how lucrative
How about
weather
this? Joe
is.
Smith was in here earlier talking to us, and I have not seen a preview for it. Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah,
Have you seen a preview for
I
it?
have.
Are you?
It looks-
He's jacked. Are
Yeah,
you?
no, it looks legit.
Crystal Skulls sucked. I thought so.
It looks good. We're in a
When's
really
it coming? Is it soon?
it's end of summer, I believe.
Oh, and so it's still a ways off.
Well, I mean, it's this summer. I mean, it's May. Like it's
I still have not seen John Wick.
I haven't seen any of the John Wicks. Dune 2, the trailer just came out. You probably didn't see
I
Dune
never
1.
saw Dune 1. Dune,
Okay.
It was great, wasn't it?
I enjoyed it. I shockingly enjoyed it. I didn't think I would like it that much, but like it grew on me. I really enjoyed it.
Post-apocalyptic, right?
Well, it's more sci-fi than post-apocalyptic. Like you're in a world that's like
Oh, it's not. Okay.
it's not post-apocalyptic. I wouldn't call it post-apocalyptic, but it is. But to your point, it is kind of like you're in a different world and you're trying to survive, and so yeah.
I don't like where everything's just like brown and gray.
Well,
that's just
Dune, it's just all sand.
yeah, which is brown and gray. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
I liked it more than I thought it would. And Zendaya. She's just, there's something, I don't know how to explain it. There's just something about her.
She's hot. Is that what I'm saying?
No, like there's
I don't know.
something, everything that she is in and every role she plays, I'm just like, yep, like that makes sense.
And
Like she
was in
just
the
does
first
it.
one?
Yes.
And
She's playing a bigger role in the second one now. Yeah, I don't know. There's
I
something about
thought
it.
I just saw a preview for it, and I thought like I should give this a shot, just the way you gave a shot to Everything Everywhere All at Once,
Yeah,
and you wish that you had not.
I hated it. Something to keep on your radar to wrap up the show with. There's a show coming out called The Idol, and it's about kind of like a young up and coming singer. Like I don't know all the details. There's a couple of like leaked like previews. Johnny Depp's daughter is the lead in it, and the early reviews right now are incredible. Like people are raving about her.
She is the idol.
She is the idol.
Okay.
And people are raving about her. Like, because I listen to all those podcasts about movies and TV shows and what's coming and critics. And in like the last 10 years, I don't know if I've ever had like a collective podcast reading trail for like, this is it. This was incredible. This person. So The Idol with Johnny Depp's daughter.
And it's not a show, it's a movie.
It's a no, it's a show. I want to say it's a show. I want to say it might be an Apple show. I'm going to look it up before we go in case anybody wants to look it up. I think her name is Rose. Isn't her name? Isn't Johnny Depp's daughter Rose?
Amber Heard.
It's going to be on HBO.
Oh.
And it's Lily Rose Depp is her name.
I wonder who her mom is.
I looked it up. They're not together anymore.
Right.
She was some model.
Okay.
She wasn't like an actress or a singer, but she was a model.
Okay.
And apparently she absolutely knocks this out.
So how old is this kid? 20? Or don't we know?
I can look it up really quick. Lily Rose Depp. I'll be honest with you. I did not know that he had it.
I never heard of her
Yeah.
until 10 seconds.
I did not know. It says French American actress, so her mom must be French.
God, the way you piece that together.
Thank you.
You're like Columbus.
She is 23 years old. She has been in some stuff. She was in the Tusk movie with Justin Long. Have you ever heard of Tusk?
Tusk is
It's kind of like a cult.
I hear Tusk and I think of Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, it was kind of like a cult movie. She was in The Dancer and and she was in The King. So she's been like kind of in a couple of things.
Nobody, but
yeah, but apparently she just destroys it. She crushes it.
well, her dad.
Mm-hmm. He's okay.
Somewhat talented.
He's okay.
He has done okay for himself.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right. Anything else? I'm about to go. We're gonna end this. We're gonna wrap it up.
Well, we can go.
All right. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. We'll be back next week.
Yes, we will.
I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. We'll see you soon.
Enjoy the sun.